I've been meaning to get on with this video, but I wound up back here again. I realized the following thing. Well, I realized it when I was making the last video, and that's this bug. See, from what I told you before, you should be able to tell me whether or not Notepad is currently in the wrapping mode or the non-wrapping mode. And your answer should be that it's in word wrap mode because there's no scroll bar here. Correct? Okay. So therefore, this is just going to hang. This will never complete. Oops. So I don't want that to happen to me. So I fixed it. That's one thing that you can't know, for instance. It could happen at any time, especially with the recent file list and so on. So what I've done is, okay, I've just installed that. Okay. Now, you may have noticed, I'm not sure if this thing comes up first, but let me open a smaller file. And see if it's in the wrapped mode, so sorry, in the non-wrapping mode, so I'll put it in wrap mode. Okay, so that means if I open up any file, there's no, it's still in word wrap mode, right? Because it remembers, that's one of the things it remembers. Anyway, if I open up this file, what's happened is it's turned the wrapping mode off automatically. And the way I did that, the way I'd make that decision, well, first off, I wanted to know what is the biggest line you can have anyway in one of these controls. So I got to get to the end of the line. Well, that takes me here. But if I go back one, it's 1024. Coincidence there, obviously. That's the 1024 characters is as far as you can go anyway. So if I figured if I determine the average line width and it's bigger than 1024 for a given file, then there's no sense in having the wrapping mode on. Anyway, everything's going to wrap, right? Already. But also that covers the case of a file that's really, really huge and has and we're in the wrapping mode and there's only one line or a couple lines, then that check will be enough to prevent that kind of bug from occurring. So what I do is just compute the average before opening the file. Well, I read the text, and I just added this bit now. If the file is bigger than a meg, okay, now I guess I think a meg, maybe I could even go less than this size, but I think maybe 1 meg would quit. Actually, I should probably go less. Oh no, that's one, yeah. Let's say 5,000 bytes. Any size, just bigger than 1024, right? Because the thing that I'm checking for is if the average line length is bigger than 1024. So this is good enough. But maybe I'll say 10. 10K, 50K. But anyway, it's fine as it is. No, it's not actually. I'll end up in trouble with a 1 meg file. It'll never finish parsing a 1 meg file, so we reinstall it. And okay, I'll just go through this. I need to get this hmem passed in is just a null pointer. I should be able to use that hmem, but I didn't. Now why can't I use that hmem? I don't use it anywhere. Oh, here. I see. But it can change. This is not correct. Unless this is, no, it's not a reference. This is incorrect, I think. Because during the process of reading, no, the handle doesn't change, does it? What is this text? A reference. Okay, I guess I could have used hmem. That doesn't matter. No. I should use the hmem. Okay. It would be in a locked state. All I have to do is say local okay. I have to unlock it. Doesn't matter. Then I gotta lock it again to get a pointer. And I don't need to reattach the handle because it'll be the same handle. I think that's okay. To balance the count, so I'm gonna try this. Let me debug. Of course I could have anyway. I got into a messed up state because I was trying to lock this hmem, but it's already locked. Then it asserted on me. But really, what I need to do in order to get a pointer to the text data, I've got to lock it, but I've got to lock it such that everything balances out. So I need to unlock it first, and then lock it again, unbeknownst to my friend, the allocator. There's a thing called an allocator here, which is supposed to manage locking and unlocking that handle, but in this case I need to get in there and check. If I go into debug, build, should still work. And calculating the average line length, and the way to do that is by searching for line feeds. Search for line feed, And then okay, this comes back null, doesn't find anything. Add the remaining characters or whatever to the consider that to be one more line, and it might be the only line I say here. Otherwise, checking for character to line feed. If the line has length, then cumulatively take the average of the length, increment the number of lines, and so on. This is just some computation that one works out. Now, put a breakpoint here. It's already set up to open that big long file automatically. So, is it wrap? Yes. Size is bigger than that. Yes. Okay, unlock that. Lock. Definitely yes. Calculate average length. Well, now I don't need to have a special scope here. But anyway, toggle word wrap. Make sure it doesn't insert. Doesn't insert, so it's fine. Okay. Now, if I go to a small file, turn. Oh yeah, no, it's not in word wrap mode. Put it on word wrap mode, and then go back to the great big file. It takes it out of word wrap mode because that process would never complete, and I can do that. So now all I lost was the setting change. My preference was this, but it changed because this file can't handle it. So that protects me against that bug that we just saw with the Windows Notepad, and would protect you too if you had the source code for Windows Notepad, which you don't. You can't fix it. Well, what you gotta do is, before you open every file, check to see if it's in word wrap mode, or never use word wrap mode. Word wrap mode is quite handy. Okay. So it opens it up, and if I go to some other file, turn on the word wrap, so it's on definitely. Close the program, save. Now it won't crash like Notepad did because of that test. That's one thing. The other thing is, I learned something by looking at the help file again. It's like I've mentioned this before, I think once or twice. It really amazes me when I learn something from that help file. This one, I don't want that. I don't want that. If I build anything at all. I was looking at this my server thing that we looked at before, and this file. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I was looking at, let me go back to the previous version. I was looking at this, and I saw this thing, decl spec select any. And I thought to myself, I've never seen that now. I was a little bit curious of what that might actually mean. Maybe I could understand what it means. And I read through the help file, and it told me, and I understand. One thing it told me is a new thing, or not new, but something that I never knew about C++ that has to do with, again, statics. Okay, I should be able to test this with dump bin. I wonder how much time I've used. Hang on. Not too bad. Okay, now first, tells the compiler that the global item is a pick any comdat. Right? Now, I don't know, that they've got their own wording for this. But what it means is, for that symbol, I suppose, any definition that the compiler has for that thing or declaration that it sees, it's allowed to use any one of those things to compute its value. Like here. Suppose I have this in a header file, okay? What it says is, now that means that this code is going to be reproduced in every module that includes that header file, all right? And this is an extern, would be considered an extern. Like it's a global variable visible in every module in my project, in my executable. What the select anything says is that the linker, or the compiler rather, is as it's going on and compiling and trying to decide which of the various ways to initialize x1 it should choose, it's allowed to choose any one it sees. Right? The idea is that they're all the same anyway because it's in a header file. So this is kind of like when C or C++, you put a const, right, in front, and that allows you to declare and initialize a variable in a header file. And I thought that meant that there would only be one copy. Let me see if I can prove this or not. Utest here. Suppose I declare a variable. Utest. Comma. Global. Okay. Clear all this out. Int x1 equals 1, right? And I compile this. Question is this going to be an exported symbol? Will this show up with dump bin? So, what is my build config? Debug. I'm going to write utest exe in a minute. Then I'm going to add another file, right? And I should get a problem if I declare something with the same name. No, it says, oh, symbol, not export. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Not here. It's called utest.obj. Find. Let's see if this is an exported symbol. I believe it should be. I know that I could, in another module, I could declare it as an external, and there it is. Okay, now it's an int. Now, when I make this static, if you don't see it, it'll come up empty. This is actually going somewhere and to do with what we're doing. Sort of. Because it's used it in that file anyway. Okay. It's not an external anyway. It does know. This thing dump bin knows about statics. This should not be visible. Nobody knows. There's no known type, right? For it. So who would know what it could possibly be? Alright. Now let's add a new file. A new source file. Okay. Now in delme here, if I wanted to, first let me put a function in delme, and I add one more, add a header file. Call it global. Okay. Now in delme, I'm going to put a function. Foo. Delme foo. Oh. I think that is always just a regular string. Include comment, or actually I'll put that in the globals. Save space. So here I could say globals. Similarly here. Right? Compile, it should compile. And then in utest, I could, if I want, call that function. But if I just tried to call it, since this is a C++ program and a C++ file, I wouldn't be able to just say that. In C you could. It'll just assume that it takes a void and returns an end. But in C++, you're not allowed to make that assumption. This should not compile. And that forces me to make a declaration. and tell the compiler what this del_me foo is, and that forces the linker to make a comparison. So I would say void like that. And now if that's the truth, then this will compile. It's a void function taking void, if it is. And it does compile, but if I add int here, say, it should fail, I hope. Oh yeah, okay. The compile succeeded, but the external was unresolved. I couldn't find it, so the link failed. I've got to give it the correct type and everything before I can use it. I can run that and it'll print del_me foo. Alright. See? Alright, now in del_me, I should be able to do this, because since this is hidden, there's no ambiguity about this name. It's only valid within this execution unit. Even though I've got two variables that are in global scope, they can't see each other, so there's no conflict, and it should compile. And setting this one equal to 2, and doing that will not give me 2. It should print out 1 because I've got 2 Allen. And as far as dumping is concerned, each of these object files is going to have a static Allen. That's no problem. So utest OBJ's got one, and del_me has also got one, but doesn't matter. It's printed out one because there's one in each file, right? Okay. Now suppose I did this. In globals.h, I put that down. Okay, so there's no more Allen in either of these CPP files. I've got it in globals.h. Question, is it going to compile? Question A. Question B, what would the result be? Well, the answer should be pretty obvious. All this include does is take globals, everything in globals.h, and stick it into this file. So I'm just going to have a declaration exactly like I just had in both files of a static variable called Allen. And there's no problem with link. There'll be 2 copies of Allen. I can set one or the other equal to 2. I can set this one to 2, but the other one is still going to remain 1 just as it was this time. You see what I'm getting at? We're talking about, you see, when we're talking about this decl spec chooseany, what if I wanted this to take, if I told the compiler to take any declaration it sees, then we'd run into trouble, right? If I had another header file with another static int Allen set to a different value in another module, right? Then we could run into trouble. If I had a globals1.h that had this in it, and globals.h that has it in it, and if they're different, then this value will be different. Anyway, one of the things that you're allowed to do in see this here in a header file should not compile, because in this case, if you copy that code, that would be like if I take this code, put it in here, and put it as well in here, right? Now I've got two external variables. Let's say one is equal to 2, and this one is equal to 1, in two different modules. And when I compile it, I should get an error. You can't have two declarations of the same exported symbol, right? Because it's not static anymore. It's not invisible to the outside world, and I've got two of them, and you're not allowed. It should fail. The link should fail. See? One or more multiply defined symbols. They're externals. And worse than that, one of them is equal to 2 and the other one is equal to 1. So in that way, if I put it in a header file, this should also fail, because that is being copied into both of them, distributed into both of these CPP files. We get two declarations of the same variable name, and it's not allowed. It's two exports. So this should fail with the link as well. With the static here, it was okay because it was invisible from one to another. See? Multiply defined symbols. Already defined and int Allen defined in one object file and another. Okay, getting back to this thing. If I do this, select any, what that says is the compiler can choose whatever declaration it sees and just take that as the meaning of Allen. So if it's compiling the delme.cpp first and sees this declaration, it's going to ignore any other declarations of Allen, and we won't get the linker error. I haven't tried this, but I assume it's going to work. Essentially what this is doing is it's making only one Allen, kind of like virtual derivation. There's only one Allen, even though it's being declared in all sorts of different files, and it compiles fine, and its value will be 1. Even if there was another declaration of Allen, well, it depends on which one gets built first. I think utest was first. I don't know if I need that same declarator. Okay, maybe I can put it in this one. I might need to put the same. I would have to select any. think. We'll see. This one gets built first. I thought it was the other way around. Utest, it should ignore this. No. But if I put that here, this thing, in front of this, it's just going to take the first one it finds as the creation and definition of Allen. Oh, but it doesn't work, right? Right. It would work, but only in C. Redefinition. Okay, anyway, in a header file though you saw that it works. So, therefore, at least if I put a 1 here, oh, I see. This one's no good because I'm using, let's try this. I had it twice in a row, right? I had it in globals.h and in the file, but now I'm cut out of globals.h. And it might compile, even without this thing. It does, see, it worked. And there's an exported symbol. The question is, which one, right? Okay, it's in delme obj. It should not be in here. Well, it is in there. But what value is it going to have? If I run delme foo, what am I going to get? It's arbitrary, right? Depends which assignment the compiler sees first. It might be 1 or it might be a 2. It turns out to be a 2. But what if I modify this file to change the order of compiling? See, essentially I've got it written down in here with a 1. If I take it out of globals, I do like I did before. It still thinks it's 2. See, even though I could put this here, right? Now it's not. Now it should look a little bit less obvious which one the compiler should take. Completely symmetric situation. It just depends on the, whatever gets seen first is selected. Select any, this thing says. Still 2, right? So that's what select any is. Now here's the thing that you probably know from C++. If you never used select any, you know this, you probably used this trick, right? This, when you put a const here, that makes it a global variable, but since it's const, I can declare it in a header file, right? The answer is wrong. It's not a global variable. And that's the thing that I learned. If it's yes, by default, const means static in C++. That is, by putting this const here, I've done the same trick as I did before by putting static. There should be no exported Allens. See? New test and Nothing. Didn't even find it. It's not even, it doesn't have a name for it. Here there was static. Now it's completely invisible to the whole universe. It just so happens I've made this declaration. The way it implements this, allowing you to do this, is by putting a static and then not even putting it in any tables or anything. It's as though these 2 and Alan are one and the same thing, just like a number defined, essentially. However, so therefore, this thing doesn't make any sense, right? Because there is nothing to select, because this thing is a static. It's not an external thing, unless it's C. If it's C, you could put this down, but not in C++, because this is the same as declaring a static variable, and there is nothing to be selected with static variables. But if you put extern in front, okay, then we're back to what we had before with the external exported symbol, and then this thing can be applied. And all this came up because I was looking at that header file here, and I noticed this selectany. So then I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. And then I hit the help on this thing. This thing. Okay, and another decl spec is for one of these GUID objects. Okay, and now it identifies with some kind of variable thing, one of these GUID structures, in fact. Now what was I thinking? Oh yeah, then I was looking at this. Hey, this is const something something. Can't I write, if I wanted to, instead of putting const, I can say select any. I can use this instead of const, if I wanted. Right? Well, I'm going to get it back. Well, you'll see what happened. First, I did that, and I had this up here. And as it was, it had all these, not these numbers, but these numbers written out in a struct. But then I noticed they talk about UUID of, which can take out of something its identifier struct using this magic keyword. So I thought, well, it's kind of dumb to have this. If you want to make sure that these are the same, then why not extract this structure, right, out of my interface? And so that's what I did. I wanted to be const, and I wanted to use the fancy select any keyword, and instead of putting this, I want to do this assignment here. This has to be an extern according to the help file. Without that would mean this is a static, but the intent here is not for it to be a static, but to use this. This type of thing. Now I don't know if that this part is better, definitely, because you don't have to. You'll never get these two out of sync. Whether or not one wants to select any, I don't know. I think without the extern and just with const, might be better. On the other hand, that means that it has to allocate space for each module for that variable, and it's going to make a duplicate of the same variable all over the place that's invisible to the outside world. By calling this an extern, there's only one copy ever made of this object, and it can't be modified. I suppose it could be. You could recast it as non-constant, write some data inside there, but you could always use the trick that they mentioned, which is to use a read-only data segment. Anyway, a couple of things that I noticed. Now, the reason why was it the way it was? Source sync, yes. The question is, the thing that I was most interested in was why was it written this way in the first place? And this is a standard answer, and there's only one possible reason why you see this and this in the same header file. That tells you that this person doesn't understand what this means, right? Like if they're using selectany for this GUID, why aren't they using it for this interface? Like the same declaration, one uses this type of declaration, and the other one uses this const thing, which means static. The answer is that means that this person doesn't understand what that is, and so they didn't use it. But instead of trying to understand what this is, let's use something they did understand, and in doing so, introduce a possible difference between these two things, right? The IID for the interface and this identifier might not be the same number, right? You can't really use a number defined because this thing is a struct and this is a string, right? But in order you can get the struct back out of this, again using that UUID of which I think I've seen. I think he used elsewhere in the project this keyword. So instead of, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying I'm special or anything, but I'm just pointing out the advantage of sometimes reading the help file, and that might lead to some understanding, and that might lead to this much better declaration, which uses the least amount of memory, only one copy of this thing, and these things cannot have a different struct associated with them, and everything's great. Okay, well, it was a big waste of time probably, but maybe you learned something from it. I'm still trying to get to this thing. I know pretty much what's going on now. Well, almost. It is all it is. Okay. The aggregation part. This here identifier apparently came from calculator I.c. Now I couldn't possibly have that because I don't have calculator anything. I've only got complex calculator, and if I go back to the thing I downloaded, all I've got for calculator is this DLL, nothing else. And I think that they meant to do that on purpose, because the aggregation step can be done we don't need this source code for the thing we're aggregating. What we're going to do, the idea, I believe, is to take over this UUID. Okay, we're going to use the same identifier that must have been in another project on the same website, the code to create it, but we don't require it. We have the DLL, so we know how to make a simple math. Now, if we register, part of this includes a registration script, which I excluded from, I don't know what to do with it, so I've excluded it. But this thing, it wouldn't work for me anyway. It's supposed to instruct the compiler to set something in the registry, right? D90, that's not that. And I don't see, this is complex calculator, right? I guess it's not in here. There's already, no. See, what we're aggregating, bringing together into our class is something to do with the simple math. Now, where is simple math? In here. Here, no, yes. Okay, now however this works, I don't know. This does something, but it's however these macros and everything work, I'm sure that it comes down to we create a simple math, but I don't know about these ones. These numbers are different. I would have thought that what we do is we use the same identifier as simple math. And so someone makes a simple math and uses it as a simple math, or if they can use a different identifier to pull out the complex math from the same object. But maybe I've got it backwards. Okay, well, that's where I am so far. See ya.